Tonight on NewsWatch, Israeli airstrikes in Syria. Will there be retaliation against the Jewish state for the attacks?
Plus, as the administration calls for stricter gun control laws, we'll look at how the NRA is moving forward.
And how one Indian ministry is working to help women move from a life of garbage picking and prostitution to a life of hope. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. Tensions are high in the Middle East after Syria threatened to retaliate against Israel for airstrikes inside Syria.
Israel says it targeted weapons that were headed for Hezbollah. Our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell has tonight's top story.
Syria's foreign minister said Israel's alleged airstrikes on targets near Damascus are a declaration of war. Israel reportedly carried out 2 aerial strikes in 48 hours to destroy what were described as game-changing weapons. That includes advanced Iranian Fateh 110 missiles with a range of 180 miles. Iran was shipping them through Syria to Hezbollah in Lebanon. The attacks highlighted growing Iranian involvement in Syria and the region. The feeling here in Jerusalem is that any retaliation will be decided in Tehran by Iran's mullahs, rather than in Damascus by the Assad regime.
Syria cannot retaliate without an approval of Iran and also Hezbollah. Only Iran can approve because Iran is a great supporter, sending the weapons.
Israel moved Iron Dome anti-missile batteries to protect northern Israel. But on Monday, Israelis on the Golan Heights and elsewhere were taking the situation in stride. Officially, the Israeli government has neither confirmed nor denied the airstrikes. Israeli Tourism Minister Uzi Landau said it was Israel's policy not to allow a certain kind of weapon to reach the hands of terrorists. Beyond that, many question how the U.S. should respond.
The whole situation is becoming more and more expansive, and unfortunately, the red line that the President of the United States written was apparently written in disappearing ink.
I think the President needs to make it clear what we will do, and he's already tried to do that with his bright red line, which he hadn't followed through on. So I don't know what his steps should be right now, but clearly his indecisiveness has destabilized and probably brought Israel into this.
For now, the bloody civil war in Syria continues, and Iran's power is increasing. But after the weekend attacks, it's clear Israel is ready to act if it feels its security is threatened. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
The United Nations says Syrian rebels have used chemical weapons in their fight against the Assad regime. A chief investigator says they've found evidence the Free Syrian Army used the nerve agent sarin. The UN says they cannot yet offer concrete proof of the weapons being used. It's a claim the rebel forces are denying. One head of the FSA calls the allegations a huge injustice.
And for more on Syria, we're joined now by Danielle Pletka. She's the Vice President of Foreign and Defense Policy Studies at the American Enterprise Institute. Danielle, first of all, do you think rebel forces used chemical weapons? And if so, would that be a game changer in Syria?
I don't think there's any evidence whatsoever that rebel forces have used chemical weapons in Syria. We've had 2 statements out of the Obama administration today, one from the State Department and one from the Department of Defense, saying that they believe that those chemical weapons were used by regime elements. I am fully confident that they were used by the regime.
Well, over the weekend, we saw the sights and sounds of the Israeli airstrike. How is the airstrike going to impact the war now?
Well, that's a good question. Theoretically, there are folks who will suggest that it won't impact the war, that this was an Israeli airstrike on Hezbollah, weapons transfers that were taking place in Syrian territory. That was an Israeli question, and it wasn't about the dynamics domestically inside Syria. On the other hand, it does put a lot of pressure on the Obama administration, which has suggested that it would be too difficult for us to intervene, that Syrian air defenses are too sophisticated for us to undertake any sort of an attack. And of course, the answer is, wow, then why could the Israelis go in and out without even a whisper from Syrian air defenses?
Well, do you think that the U.S. should step up and be more actively involved, as Israel just did?
I think that there are 2 questions here in terms of U.S. involvement. The first is the credibility of the President of the United States. you know, the coin of our realm is not something that we should use cheaply. And when the President of the United States, whether it's a man, a woman, a Republican, a Democrat, or anything else, says that something is a red line, and then we choose to act as if it is not a red line, then we do damage our own credibility. What it means is that any other threats that we make, warnings that we give, suggestions that we give as to the parameters that we see of acceptable policy in the world are going to be ignored by the likes of North Korea, Iran, China, and others. So that's part one. Part two is, do we have an interest? And I've long argued that we have a very strong interest in Syria. It's really at a unique confluence of our strategic and our moral interests.
All right, Danielle Pletka with the American Enterprise Institute. Thanks so much.
At least 15 people were killed as protesters took to the streets of Bangladesh over the weekend. The government there has stated it will remain secular, but Islamic demonstrators are demanding the enforcement of strict Islamic law. Such laws are often used to persecute people of other faiths. We spoke with Knox Thames, the Director of Policy and Research at the U.S. Commission for International Religious Freedom, about the danger of these laws.
I think Pakistan is the worst situation for blasphemy laws. In our report, we identified 16 individuals in Pakistan who are on death row for allegedly blasphemous statements, and another 20 individuals serving life sentences. And they're not all Christians, they're also Muslims. But we've seen increasing cases in countries like Egypt. We've seen it in also other places like India and Greece. So it's a challenge to freedom of thought, freedom of religion, when you have governments deciding what is or isn't true, what is or isn't offensive.
You can see the full interview with Knox Thames at CBNNews.com.
Leaders of the NRA say the gun lobby is ready for a long war. The National Rifle Association held its annual convention in Houston this weekend. Ephraim Graham brings us this wrap-up.
The NRA and gun control opponents won the first round against the White House with the defeat of the gun control bill in the U.S. Senate last month.
A Senate vote less than 2 weeks ago is significant.
However, NRA leaders are taking it one step at a time, not becoming overly optimistic.
We must never confuse winning a battle with winning the war.
And explaining why Americans should own a firearm.
Guns save lives. Guns protect our mothers, our wives, our daughters, our children.
The NRA focused its criticism at President Obama's push for new gun control laws.
You know, Obama is meeting and plotting with the who's who of the gun ban movement.
NRA leaders also targeted New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg's more than $10 million investment to help prevent illegal guns from getting on the streets.
And we will never be scared of a billionaire.
For gun control supporters, a former White House aide recommends following the NRA's strategy.
Organize as the NRA does and make it a voting issue.
The White House continues to reference the innocent children of Newtown, Connecticut and their grieving parents.
And all I can remember is that awful day.
That strategy did not work in the fight for background checks in the Senate. So this weekend, victims of gun violence confronted NRA members at their own convention to try to find common ground. In the meantime, the White House will continue to push Congress. The Obama administration also continues to look into what the president might be able to do on his own to bypass congressional approval. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Investigators are taking a close look at the wife of the dead Boston Marathon bombing suspect. According to the younger brother, the bombs were built in the apartment Catherine Russell shared with her late husband. She denies having any knowledge of the bombing plot, but officials say images from an Al-Qaeda magazine were found on her computer. Meanwhile, there is outrage over a decision by the family of Tamerlan Tsarnaev to bury his body in Massachusetts.
He just bombed us and we're taking care of him. It's not fair.
A dead person needs to be buried. So that's what the tradition requires, that's what religion requires, and I guess that's what morals requires.
So far, the family has not been able to find a cemetery that is willing to take the body.
Congress is working to try to make big cuts in the federal criminal code. Some lawmakers say the code has become so big that every American over age 18 has broken some law without even knowing it. John Waggy explains.
The House Judiciary Committee will oversee a new task force called the Over-Criminalization Task Force of 2013. Wisconsin Congressman James Sensenbrenner will lead the task force. Sensenbrenner has long been a critic of the huge volume of criminal statutes and tens of thousands of regulations that mandate both fines and, in some cases, prison time for Americans who often don't know they're breaking the law. Virginia Congressman Bobby Scott will be the ranking Democrat on the task force.
The past 20 or 30 years, the number of people in jails and prisons in America has gone up almost tenfold because every time you turn around, there are new laws.
In 2003, federal agents raided and ransacked the home of Texas retiree George Norris and his wife Kathy. George spent a year and a half in federal prison, charged with selling what the government thought were endangered orchids. He ended up being convicted on a paperwork violation, but he suffered declining health and had to spend their savings fighting the charges.
The country that I grew up in was not like this. And I've lost the country I love. And I don't know how to help get it back.
Policy analyst Paul Larkin is a former Department of Justice attorney and a former criminal enforcement agent at the EPA.
Only when the public gets outraged about this will something happen. Only then will you see prosecutors not prosecute these cases. Only then will you see Congress not pass any more laws.
With the partisan divide in Washington deeper than ever, this bipartisan task force may actually get somewhere. Groups as diverse as the Conservative Heritage Foundation, the liberal ACLU, and the Libertarian Cato Institute are all supporting reform of the federal criminal code. And the task force will no doubt hear many more stories of victims of a government wielding too much prosecuting power against its citizens. John Waggy, CBN News.
Coming up, a South African preacher comes to the U.S. Hear his message to 10,000 men.
Your dryer runs forever, and your clothes still come out damp? Now you can speed up your dryer by up to 15 minutes. Introducing the Lint Lizard. It's like a magic wand that cleans deep into any dryer. The flexible Lint Lizard attaches right to any vacuum hose. Look how much lint we got out of this dryer. All this lint that escapes past your lint screen. Yuck! A clogged dryer works harder. All that lint can even burn out your motor. Or worse, it can start a dangerous vent fire. It's a full 40 inches long and cleans deep into your vent system, grabbing all the packed-in lint that's choking your dryer. After a quick cleaning with the Lint Lizard, your dryer vent is clear, making it work less and run more efficiently. Old-fashioned lint brushes pull out some lint, and the lint gets everywhere. The Lint Lizard cleans deeper and sends the lint right into your vac bag. Vacuuming between machines and under appliances is a snap. Take it outdoors to vac your outside vent. So before you spend a fortune on costly repairs, order your Lint Lizard for just $10.99. Call right now and you can double your order. And that's not all. We'll also include the Dust Lizard. It attaches to any vac and adjusts to any position. The Dust Lizard goes where no other attachment can. Clean delicate electronics, tedious air vents, tiny tile crevices, crumbs from corners, dirt from slider tracks, places you could never vacuum before, even expensive sculptures and intricate chandeliers. Plus, the Lint Lizard comes with a money-back guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, return them and keep the Dust Lizard. You get it all, 2 Lint Lizards and the Dust Lizard for $10.99. Call now and find out about free shipping.
Call 1-800-373-2150 and get your Lint Lizard. But call now and you can get a special offer on a second Lint Lizard and the Dust Lizard with your order. So call 1-800-373-2150 and find out about free shipping. That's 1-800-373-2150. Call now.
A Kentucky high school says prayer will not be a part of its graduation ceremony this year. The ban comes after 6 graduating seniors at Lincoln County High School objected to the prayer. But senior class president Jonathan Hardwick is speaking out against the ban. He says officials can't stop him from praying on his own.
Thousands of men packed a Tennessee arena this weekend for an historic meeting. It was South African evangelist Angus Buchan's first men's conference in the United States. But as Ephraim Graham reports, Buchan told the men their struggles are not much different from what the men he preaches to back at home face and around the world.
There is a tangible excitement inside this Tennessee sports arena.
Oh, joy. I'm looking for something that's just magnificent. That's what I've been all day. is I've been waiting on to come here. You know, it's just to see what I'm going to get. I'll pray to get.
Will Wade is one of 10,000 men who've united to pray, worship, and hear a word from Angus Buchan, a South African cattle farmer turned evangelist, whose life story has now been the focus of 2 films, Faith Like Potatoes and Angus Buchan's Ordinary People. What's your message to American men tonight?
Okay, my message to the American men tonight, hot off the press, okay, is that we've got to speak the truth. Thy word is truth. This is my agricultural manual. I'm telling you, Ephraim, people laugh at me. This is the book that tells you to love your wife, submit to your husband, respect your elders. This is the book that says a lazy man doesn't deserve to eat. This is the book that says a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. And when we get back to the truth, then we'll have revival.
The future of this nation is hinging on the family.
Buchan calls his massive meetings Mighty Men's Conferences. This is Angus Buchan's first Mighty Men's Conference in the U.S. The first was born on his farm in South Africa with just 40 men. The final meeting on that farm drew some 400,000 men.
It's not the government, it's not the White House, it's the family.
The cries of men in this arena are loud, and each has a struggle he's praying to overcome.
I'd say the peer pressure of my peers, like people at school doing things that I shouldn't do and not doing them.
But the men aren't the only focus here tonight.
You know, a lot of ladies have given me stick back home. You know, are you a male chauvinist? I said, no, I'm not. I can't even spell the word. I said, these meetings are not for the men. They're actually for the women and the children, to teach the man to be prophet, priest, and king in his home. Okay, prophet, to lead the way, from the front, not from the back. Okay, priest, to lead his children and his wife in the things of God every day. Okay, and king, to put the bread on the table.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Go Angus. Well, up next, how one group is working to help the millions of Indian women living in poverty.
In 2008, my husband Gary departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the Spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Welcome back. In recent months, women in India have been rising up to protest the sexual violence and humiliation they face every day. They want tougher laws and say Indian society needs to change its attitude toward women.
For years, Christian ministries have been working to help Indian women overcome the odds. In tonight's Focus Report, George Thomas tells us about a woman who fought against terrible poverty and abuse and learned to forgive.
It's been said the most beautiful people are those who've known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, and have found their way out of the depths. Rupa Raju is one of them.
I've had a difficult life since my childhood and experienced more horrible things than most people my age.
You see, at a young age, Rupa was forced by her parents to join the ranks of India's so-called rag pickers. These are men, women, and young children who rummage through filthy garbage heaps in the cities of India, looking for anything that can be recycled and sold. Plastic, bottles, metal parts, pieces of glass, rotting discarded food.
My day started at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I picked trash for 10 to 12 hours.
On a good day, she'd earn about $2, and that was a good day. Here on the streets, where dogs were her only companion, and millions of squirming maggots, flies, rats, and crows a constant distraction, she'd compete with other rag pickers for a few scraps.
When I got older, my mother told me I wasn't bringing in enough money picking trash, so I was forced to sleep with men to bring more money. I became a prostitute.
With tears welling up in her eyes, she describes the rage she felt toward her parents.
I thought of running away. I didn't trust my parents. How could they do such a thing to me? I was angry. I wanted to kill them. I wanted something terrible to happen to them.
Rupa is a Dalit, a so-called untouchable. Indian society labels Dalits lowest of the low, impure, less than human. Almost all rag pickers are Dalits. And like her, many young girls end up as prostitutes or get caught in a web of human trafficking.
When I think about it, I begin to cry.
But that's the past. Tonight's graduation night, and Rupa is all smiles.
The Rupa of old is not the Rupa you see today. I cannot begin to explain to you what God has done in my life.
She has God and Jivalin Kumar to thank for her transformation and this momentous evening.
We really look forward to this night because we see our women being liberated, being emancipated.
Jivalin Kumar runs Tarika Women's Center, a Christian ministry that takes in, rehabilitates, and empowers scores of young women at risk. Almost 2 years ago, Rupa came to the center looking for help. Here, she got counseling, learned how to speak English, took sewing and computer classes, and eventually had her dignity restored. She also met dozens of other young women like herself who had similar life experiences.
What I like to personally communicate to them is that I would never ever give up on any one of those women, no matter how many times they fall, because I know it is a struggle for them.
Today, the Tarika Center is just one of a handful of Christian ministries operating here in India, trying desperately to rescue thousands of Dalit women from human trafficking and sexual bondage. For many of these victims, such ministries are a lifeline to a better future.
Rupa says it was at the center she discovered with great delight her worth in God's eyes.
I come from a Hindu background. I knew very little about Jesus Christ. When I came to Tarika, I started reading the Bible and then understood what freedom really means and how much I mean to God.
Ultimately, it's the Bible's view of them that Kumar says brings lasting transformation.
They can't believe it because all these years they've been told that they are lower than animals. And here we are telling them that they are created in the image of God. And that just hits them, that just blows them away.
On a recent Friday evening, Rupa joined 105 women on stage for a graduation ceremony honoring their completion of an 18-month course at Tarika. And sitting in the audience that night were Rupa's mother and father. They told CBN News this was the proudest moment of their lives.
The Tarika Center has done a great job. My daughter is a different person.
I feel bad for the things we did to her, but now I want her to study well and have a good future.
And perhaps it's this image of Rupa holding her father's hand that speaks volumes of one life transformed by the power of the gospel. She told CBN News later she's forgiven her parents for forcing her into prostitution.
Every night before I go to bed, I thank God for Tarika Center. I thank God for rescuing me from my past.
These days, she works as a confidence sales assistant in a large department store located on the most famous shopping street in the city. Same street, by the way, where she once picked trash. Her real desire, though, is to minister to broken and abused young women.
There are many people who took care of me and showed love to me. I want to do the same for others. That will make me happy.
George Thomas, CBN News, Bangalore, India.
Thanks, George. Up next, why one man is training to run an entire marathon blindfolded.
Ow, my feet hurt. My feet hurt, your feet hurt. White hot pain, I wanna cry. Is there anything I can try?
Why, yes! Introducing Strut Soul Angels, the human shock absorber that helps alleviate foot pain.
The first 10 steps in the morning to the bathroom were excruciating. Within 3 days after I put Struts on, it's been such a relief.
Slipped it on and almost immediately I felt a support, kind of like a pillow underneath my arches.
The Struts Soul Angel provides a great amount of relief and support throughout the course of the day, providing shock absorption and relief of pain.
On your feet without proper support can be painful. Strut Soul Angels promotes better balance, control, and body alignment. Standing in your heels all day is painful, but slip on Struts and you'll enjoy comfort and support 24/7. Struts is so versatile, you'll wear them in every shoe you own, even barefoot.
I'm on my feet all the time. I teach 11 and 12-year-olds. The pain was so much that I knew I had to do something. And with the Struts, I can do my job and enjoy my job.
I usually am on my feet from 8 to 12 hours a day. When I wear my Struts, it's like giving my feet a hug all day.
It's life-changing. I wear them from the minute I get up to the minute I go to bed.
Why pay $400 for custom orthotics?
Now get Strut Soul Angels for just $10. You also get Miracle Foot Repair Cream, absolutely free. Use it to help relieve dry, callous feet overnight. But wait, call right now and we'll double the offer free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Plus, you get a 100% money-back guarantee. If not completely delighted, send it back. But keep the foot cream as our gift just for trying. You get it all. A $70 value for just $10.
Oh, yes! Love my Struts, love my Struts. The best thing since sliced bread. They heal pain from toes to head. Get yours now, your doctor said.
Struts. Be nice to your feet. Call now.
Call 1-800-787-1580 and get your Struts and Miracle Foot Repair for just $10 and we'll double the offer. That's 1-800-787-1580 or visit getstruts.com.
Well, one of the runners in this year's Pittsburgh Marathon won't see a single step of the 26.2-mile course.
That's because he's running the marathon blindfolded. 44-year-old Mike Bruno's daughter, Cassie, is legally blind. He says he wants to run this marathon for her.
Well, I was walking a couple years back on the trail, and I attempted to walk with my eyes closed to experience what my daughter, Cassie, does on a daily basis.
Cassie was born premature. Her retina is still detached. Multiple surgeries have improved her condition, but her vision is still impaired. Bruno asked his friend Jim Irwin to be his sighted guide, and that means the two will be running tethered together. And when can you imagine doing that for 26 miles? But he wants to do what his daughter has to deal with every day.
Shows how much he loves her.
That's right.
Great
That's
gesture.
all for this edition of Newswatch.
See you tomorrow.